Hey everyone, it's ENDYMION, and this video is going to be full of insufferable nonsense. I'm just going to warn you from the get-go. We're talking some cringe and lots of he said, she said, but it's okay, that's why I'm here. Today we're talking about Sweet Baby Defenders getting bodied by actual based game developers. Beyond this, I also want to look into some other absolute nonsense like people saying games aren't political on purpose, and then like always, modern gaming proving that it's as political as it's always been. When you see the examples, you are going to facepalm. Anyway, let's begin. So this all started when an Xbox employee named Ray decided to attack anyone that was against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do not harass this person, by the way, and this video is very weird for me to make because if you followed my channel since its inception, I actually started off doing lore videos for some games. I eventually started covering lore for other games and doing critiques for games I enjoyed like From Software. This is actually when I met this Ray online years ago. We talked a bit, not much mind you. I doubt she considers me a friend or anything, but we did chat in DMs. I would bounce lore theory ideas against her and then she would respond. We were never hostile towards one another ever. And at one point she was laid off from the industry and her dog needed surgery but couldn't afford it. So I donated a bit of cash to her GoFundMe because I don't like seeing dogs suffer. I have dogs myself. I love those little guys. Dogs are the best things in this world. So naturally, if I see a dog suffering knowing that they're just innocent little babies, I gotta help them. So anyway, I donated to her GoFundMe. I assumed the surgery was a success and the dog is healthy. So I just want you guys to know, and I'm being 100% transparent here, that what has been going on here with Ray, or Quaylag as she's known by her username, which, yes, is a Dark Souls boss, I'm aware, is that talking about all of this is kinda weird for me to say the least. Regardless of your political position or what you think of this group or that, I do think we need to understand that we're all human beings. I really do hope that Ray's dog is doing okay. The little guy doesn't deserve to suffer. I hope that all doggos out there are doing good, because they're all awesome. I love dogs so much. So now that you know my history with this person, imagine my confusion and disappointment to see it devolve into what has happened here. So Ray decided to basically attack pretty much all Gamergate 2 supporters. It was a whole thread of her explaining how diversity and inclusion is not destroying your favorite games. But in fact, it's greedy executives and blown out budgets. I agree that greed and overspending is to blame, but to also conveniently ignore how identity politics have absolutely ruined the gaming world, that's nothing short of a dismissal of reality in my opinion. I should also note, once I started actually speaking my mind on the industry and not holding back my opinions anymore, that Ray did unfollow me on Twitter and she has never spoken to me again, which is fine, but hey, I guess you can't speak with the enemy or whatever, even though I'm not your enemy. I'm just trying to heal video games and pull it out of the abyss that it's in right now, but anyways, it is what it is. Ray made that thread, people attacked her, I read it, I didn't agree with her take, but that's Twitter for you, and then I just moved on with my day. Eventually, she would then put this on her Twitter page saying, "Hey new folks, I'm Ray, I work in the gaming industry in UX, R&D, plus game production. I worked on various software and hardware for Xbox, I now work as an independent media producer, and had the privilege of working on the Dota Internationals 2023 and other gaming media projects." In the photo here, you can clearly see that she claims that she also worked on stuff like Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Well, this is where the entire conversation kinda just goes tits up and becomes wild. Then Thomas Mahler, who was the director of both Ori games, replied to her saying that she worked on the game by saying himself, "I'm the director behind both Ori games and I don't know who you are or how you are affiliated with Ori. Remember when I told you this video would either make you cringe or facepalm? Yeah, this is one of those moments." It's one thing to get caught in the act of lying, but it's another thing altogether when the guy who directed those games is like, I don't even know who you are. Of course, people went to her LinkedIn and they found Ray's work history, and yeah, she never actually worked on either Ori games. Ray would then reply, "I worked with Xbox User Research, I was the URA for Global Publishing during 2018-2020, nice to meet you." So she kinda admitted that she didn't work on Ori, you worked with Xbox, and Ray even gives another woman's name that I won't repeat being tied to Ori in the credits, but people combed through Ori's credits following this, and yeah, her name was not found anywhere. So it's getting egg on your face, which sucks, but doubling down is never a good idea. Thomas Mahler, the director of the Ori games, would then reply, "That could explain it. I didn't want to cause you any trouble. I just saw you posting that you worked on Ori and I had no idea who you are. Since you're calling people names online, I thought it was important to inform people that you never actually worked for Moon Studios and that you didn't ever directly engage with anyone at Moon. Always be nice to people, Ray, even those you disagree with. This response is the right one by Thomas, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't take much for people to boycott your game these days. All it really takes is one bad apple in your studio to start saying stupid stuff, and that's really all that needs to happen before information spreads like wildfire. Thomas rightfully stepped in and publicly informed anyone engaging with the tweet that this person has no relation to the Ori games or the studio at large. Because Thomas is a smart game developer and understands allowing the nebulous connection to stay that way would simply allow conspiracy theories to take hold. And this could in turn retroactively harm Moon Studios, which Thomas is a part of, and cause people to not want to support them in the future. Some people in the comments were mad at Thomas claiming he was bullying this employee, but no, he isn't. You have to put your foot down like an adult and put people in their place and set up barriers so people understand what is true and what isn't. It's why I told you my relation to this Ray or Quaylag in the beginning. I don't want to speak on this and pretend like I don't know this person when I actually do. Honesty goes a long way. Before anyone says, oh, you donated to a person who enjoys wokeness, listen to yourself. I don't care who the person is, okay? The dog was in trouble. A dog doesn't have political affiliations, alright? And doggos don't deserve to suffer. So if I'm a bad person for making sure that a cute little dog is healthy and okay, then call me bad all you want, I frankly don't care. I donate to people on places like GoFundMe here or there because I like helping people. I don't really make it public, but sue me for wanting to use my success to help others, I guess. Anyway, here's where the conversation shifts and it gets even more insufferable. It could have just ended there with Thomas Mahler confirming that Ray never actually developed Ori, and that could have been it. He wasn't dismissing her contributions in other ways, just clarifying things because her previous comments were in a lot of ways going against Gamergate 2 and its supporters. Then, of course, like a painful pimple on your butt cheeks, the Kotaku weirdo shows up named Alyssa Mercanti. I rarely talk about this woman because it's so obvious that she's mentally unwell and is likely under enough antidepressants to put a rhino into a coma, but here we are. After all, this Alyssa, like always, decided it was her turn to fight Thomas Mahler, because she can never accept her side of the aisle losing an argument, which is wild because her side tends to lose arguments almost every single time, every day, all the time. Like, when have they ever won? I have no idea. Let's just keep going. Anyway, Alyssa would reply and call Thomas a dickhead, to which Thomas would reply, I don't know who you are. Yeah, Thomas pulled that Thanos line in Endgame on Alyssa, and it was pretty funny to see. And I mean, why would he know who she is? He's busy making games while she's busy fighting people and burning bridges all the time. Alyssa would, of course, behind all her blocks so people can't reply to her, retweet Thomas's own of Ray, and share an article where back in 2022, Moon Studios was accused of a sexist, oppressive atmosphere. Thomas Mahler has confirmed that there was some claims of sexism in Moon Studios since, and the development studio has worked to fix those problems. Credit where credit is due, at least Thomas isn't hiding when his studio makes mistakes. Anyway, Alyssa, as you know, is a big sweet baby defender. She also hates that ordinary gamers are winning the culture war at an alarming rate. But I mean, it's not hard to win when a lot of the Western slop coming out is bad, and there's little to no reason to support it outside of a few actual good games like Space Marine 2. Thomas Mahler, who's currently directing No Rest for the Wicked at Moon Studios, then responded to Alyssa, and this was... it's quite long, so I'll read you what he said, and I quote. Hey Alyssa, you're apparently a journalist from Kotaku, so I'm guessing you haven't worked in actual game development yet. Let me try to explain the thing you posted about, which I'm guessing was that hit piece from a few years back. Yes, I'm guilty of what's stated in that image, and that's okay because this is the normal creative process. We brought lots of veterans into Moon because generally great people want to get the opportunity to work on great projects, and that's our goal at Moon. We always set out to create the kind of games we'd love to play ourselves that fill some hole in the market because for some reason these holes haven't been filled yet, and so we're all incredibly passionate about what we do. With great talent comes lots of enthusiasm and passion, which absolutely leads to arguments because ultimately, everyone is working hard on getting their vision into the game. But also, everyone in Moon understands that we're working together as a team, so the point of these arguments is then to try to convince each other why this or that solution would be the best thing for the game that we're making, and the best solution ought to win. Most of the times, the beauty behind these arguments is that everybody gets a chance to contribute, and more often than not, the actual solution will be the one ultimately everybody contributed to, because we're dealing with very complex issues all the time, and complex problems often also need complex solutions. It is often a chaotic process, but it's controlled chaos, and yes, absolutely every now and then, I have to put my foot down and set the direction, because I'm the game director, and ultimately it's my responsibility to ensure that everyone knows where things are heading and what decisions are getting made. And yes, it has also happened that I agreed to a certain decision, playtested some more, and changed the direction after. Again, to me, this is a normal part of the process since things get clearer and clearer the more stuff gets implemented and the more we play and test. To me, all this is just how creative work happens. It can be painful, but my job, like any good director, is to understand what's going on and make sure the right decisions gets made, even if some work might get rendered useless in the process. A few years back, we hired some folks that didn't really fit our culture, so we had to part ways with them, and then that article happened. Wasn't a great feeling to see some ex-Moon folks talking badly behind our backs, but ultimately, it just made it clear that these folks shouldn't have worked at Moon in the first place, and I hope they're happier now wherever they landed. I don't know why you're out here cursing out game developers and what your whole deal is, but I hope that gave you some insight into the creative process and its messiness and beauty. I hope you have a nice day. Yours, Dickhead. End quote. Okay, so with added context, Thomas confirms that the hit piece Kotaku ran against Moon Studios was perpetuated by essentially what Thomas is calling woke activists that worked there. And because they were pandering wokies, Thomas basically pushed them out of the company. He has done this before, where he openly admitted to firing a consultant that was going to work on No Rest for the Wicked. In this article from that Park Place a few months back, a DEI consultant named Alexander Brazi worked with Moon Studios for a very short period of time. But he claimed in his tweet, seen here on screen, which says, "Yeah, it would help if people understood effective DEI is about helping people who historically didn't have the network to get eyes onto their work have a chance due to their equal skill. The whole merit smearing is so banal, presumptuous, and out of touch with reality." So this Alexander guy was throwing shade at Moon Studios, accusing the developer of rejecting his diversity, equity, and inclusion woke nonsense that he was clearly trying to implement into No Rest for the Wicked. It could be any number of reasons, we don't know. Maybe Alexander was trying to make the game more diverse or have more strong female characters and less male ones. And Thomas Mahler, the director, told him to kick rocks, and again, like the Ray Ori thing, Thomas had to put his foot down and denounce what that woke Alexander consultant was saying. Thomas said in response to that guy, "This person is not affiliated with Moon Studios in any way whatsoever anymore. We contracted him for a short stint and he was fired for bringing nothing but friction into our team, just FYI." The key word there being friction. These sorts of people just want to corrupt your games and make them as diverse and inclusive and all of the other stuff as possible. The actual quality doesn't seem to matter, nor does the paying customers' wants or needs. This is a big reason why Gamergate 2 has happened to begin with. It's a battle against the ethics of games journalism and the games industry's complete lack of respect for the players out there who actually support their work. Hiring people that hate the players is a surefire way to end up like Concord or Suicide Squad, which is to say that it's a terrible idea no matter how you try to justify it. Moon Studios was smart to not only remove those activist developers, but reject the consultants as well. It doesn't take much to rot something from within, and if you need a good look at how quickly that rot can spread until everything is ruined, well, just look at Ubisoft to see the end result. A carcass that is full of maggots that was once healthy and strong. Every game studio should pride themselves in ensuring that they don't become the next host for the woke maggots out there, and Thomas clearly saw what they were trying to do and then used his power to remove them. This is why I will play and pay for No Rest for the Wicked when it comes to PS5, because I want to support devs that actually stand up to the nonsense and the chaos. Of course, in response to Thomas standing up against Sweet Baby Defenders, Alyssa posted a meme saying that she wasn't going to read all of that, when we know for a fact that she did in fact read all of it. She just knew she couldn't respond in any way in order to turn the conversation in her favor is all. People like this, whether it's Kotaku or their Sweet Baby Defenders or just employees like Ray, they're learning that it's never smart to attack the player base in order to virtue signal, and of course this happened as well. Great. So Ray decided instead of just taking the L's that she would now try to attack Thomas even more. She said in response to another user calling Thomas unprofessional, "Pretty sure he also compared DEI to the Holocaust, but that's also not my business." Ray, why are you doing this? Why attack someone like this and then close doors because you just can't take the L and move on? Be honest with yourself. Is attacking the guy who directed 2 games that ended up giving you work for 2 years of your life at Xbox? Is it really the smartest thing to do that in your line of work, to attack him? We both know that isn't a good idea on your part. This is what I keep saying, man. That activism has indeed ruined many sections of the game industry over the past 10 years and then some. It's like how Grum said it following all of this nonsense, which he documented, so the receipts will exist forever now going forward, and he said, "We live in a world where games journalists want you to believe a woman's claim she worked on a game versus the game's director never having heard of her. If you don't, you're a dickhead." And he's right. I really dislike this dismissal of object reality if it doesn't fit the narratives of leftist games journalism. I will never accept what they spew as truth because I know that 90% of the time, or probably even more than that they're lying through their teeth and they want nothing more from me than to die. Plus, Ray saying this in her first thread, which states that DEI consulting companies don't bully studios into changing creative direction. They act as resources to help creatives portray a lived experience. Ray, come on. You know this is a lie. Kim Belair, Sweet Baby Inc. has publicly stated that consultants should use bullying tactics in order to get what they want from publishers. She said this at GDC, for crying out loud. Here, watch.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
As you can see, like always when it comes to this industry, people are talking out of both sides of their mouths. The Gamergate 2 war is raging on, fellas, and it claims more as the flames continue to engulf the industry at large. It's not hard to be for the players, but unfortunately too many of these people have been mentally conditioned to believe that the players are not to be seen as human beings, but simply wallets meant to enforce your beliefs. And it's why they keep failing. Of course, Alyssa would end this by saying, "This is because a man who allegedly fostered a sexist, oppressive workplace decided to wrongfully publicly accuse a woman of lying about her job history, which sent the army of chuds after her, and I called him a dickhead for it. He could have DM'd her, he knew what he was doing." Like always, Alyssa, who fails to understand how the industry or common sense works, no, he didn't do it to own Ray. He corrected what she said publicly because what she was saying was going to weaponize Ori and No Rest for the Wicked by association into a culture war battle that it had no business being a part of. Thomas was right to bring this to light and expose it because by doing so, he has now protected the integrity of Moon Studios and the games that he worked on as well as the future releases. I'm not surprised that Alyssa can't understand common sense, but I do hope that she's upping her medical intake because signs of dementia are really starting to settle in for her. Look, I don't like attacking people like Alyssa, mostly because it's too easy and frankly, it's just kind of sad at this point. I haven't spoken about this woman since I made a video about Helldivers months ago, I believe so anyway. I want next to nothing to do with Kotaku or anyone who works there, but these people are like a bad rash that won't leave. I hope more game developers protect their games from activists, and I hope employees within games understand better that it's never a good idea to attack the people who keep you employed. Good luck to Ray on working with Xbox or Moon Studios in any capacity again. It'll likely be a lot harder now when you've done this publicly. As for Alyssa, please go get your brain checked for dementia and work on your narcissism too. Anyways, I want to finish with two more stories that prove what I've been saying this entire video, that gaming has an activism problem. Firstly, you know World of Warcraft. Did you know that the game recently had an in-game event where Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz of all people rallied in Astaroth to get people to vote for them? Yeah, I know. I sound like I'm trolling you, but it's a real thing that actually happened. Why is it happening, you're likely asking? It's because the Harris-Waltz campaign wants to promote themselves to younger men for votes. That's why. Because nothing says video games are not political like having actual politicians in your fantasy world, right? This is what I'm saying, this crap needs to stop already, because video games should not be used as political bludgeoning tools. I don't want Kamala Harris in WoW, and no, I don't want Trump in Call of Duty either. I think it's both insane and ridiculously stupid that these game companies are doing these things on purpose. And it shows, of course, like always, a political bias alignment within these companies. Microsoft, which owns Activision, Blizzard, and WoW, allowing this to happen in the first place is really tone-deaf and very stupid, because none of this is going to make young World of Warcraft players want to vote for Harris and Waltz. I do not want to see this sort of thing become normalized, because the point of video games is escapism. And you can't exactly have that when you're constantly being reminded every 5 minutes of the real world and its politics all of the time. Take for example how recently a stormtrooper was shown whose name is Sister and is apparently transgender. Even down to having the trans flag colors on their armor. This is a part of some new book about stormtroopers, and yet again proves exactly what I have been talking about this entire time. Star Wars should not have trans flags in it. Yes, I said what I said, and let me explain. The trans flag is objectively a symbol of the real world, the same way the American flag or any other is as well. None of these flags should be in Star Wars because Star Wars is not a real place and it is not a part of our objective reality. Fantasy and science fiction should draw the line in representing the real world when it comes to concepts. For example, the Empire in Star Wars is very evidently based on the Yazis during World War II. I mean, Darth Vader's helmet is literally sort of a Yahtzee officer's helmet but spacified. This is the real world inspiring the fictional one, but it's done in a way where you're not literally seeing an actual Yahtzee with the hate symbol on their arm in Star Wars shooting innocent people or anything. The same way you don't see the rebels flying the American flag either, because the real world does not exist in Star Wars. Hence the whole "in a galaxy far, far away" being the whole point, which means that they're nowhere near us, obviously. Having this stormtrooper be trans, that's one thing. It's already stupid because clone troopers have no sense of identity, and they are simply bodies that are bred to fight wars and be disposable on purpose. But the part that really made me roll my eyes was the trans color scheme, because it is a direct flag-bearing color scheme taken from the real world, and then applied to a character in a fictional one that would not under any circumstance know the existence of the trans flag in the first place. And this is what I've been saying, that these properties have become far too politicized, and you are instead being gaslighted into thinking that you're wrong if you point things out like this. A trans stormtrooper would have no concept of what colors are used for a trans flag, as it was used on planet Earth. The trans flag, according to what I found online, was founded in the year 2000 in Arizona. Now tell me why a clone stormtrooper who lives in a galaxy billions of light years away from our own would somehow know and use the exact same color scheme and flag as something that was made in Arizona, of all places. They wouldn't, that's the point. I'm not saying that a clone trooper couldn't grow their hair out or develop their own identity over a long period of time. Assuming they live long enough, considering they are clone troopers after all and they kind of seem to die all of the time. But the implementation of the trans flag is a direct overreach on Disney's part, where the real world has yet again, like the Harris Wow campaign, overstepped its boundaries into escapism, which in turn removes the escapism from the whole concept of what these properties stand for in the first place. Like Thomas fighting against Sweet Baby Defenders and protecting his studio and their image, you will get gaslighted into thinking that Thomas is in the wrong here when he isn't. And you'll hear others call you this and that if you say the trans flag should not exist in Star Wars or any other property. The simple truth is that activism doesn't care about the sanctity of the properties that you care about. And it's because of this is why things like Gamergate 2 are growing with every passing day. How can there be ethics in these industries when the very same ethics are perverted, distorted, and ruined in order to fit new age current day ideological purposes? None of this is okay, and it should never be embraced, nor should it be allowed. Escapism is called escapism for a reason, and it's very clear no matter how hard you try that the entertainment of today, mostly of the Western Hemisphere, let's be real, is hell-bent on ensuring that you can never escape its woke clutches. And this is why it's more imperative than ever to speak your mind regardless of the fear that these freaks try to distill in you. Always push back, ask every question you can, and never accept their lunacy no matter what. Because these kinds of people, they thrive on your complacency, and because of that, Gamergate 2 will continue to rage on. So thank you for watching, subscribe, thanks to my supporters, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.